One of the biggest things I see in golf is people not being able to control what they do with this club. And this is the club that we use the most when we're out on the golf course, so I hope it's the one that you use the most. If you're using another club more than this, then it's seriously time to consider lessons or head over to our channel at Get Good at Golf. So putting is something that, for me, again, I've taught on tour for around about 5-6 years now, and again, my speciality is this area, is putting. And one big thing we've seen is a lot of myths with putting. Obviously, one of the biggest myths I see for people is, right, I've got to take it straight back and straight through. I'm not thinking about any arc, it has to be rigid. I'm also thinking there is no motion with these wrists. So I've got to keep those nice and rigid. And what we start to see is my wrists have no movement, or we start to see motions just like this. So we've seen a lot of motions in with our head, with our arms, and we can see that that's just picked up that stroke. And one big thing there, you'll see that, what are my wrist angles doing there, James? So again, guys, you can see on screen there, we have a little bit of flexion in the wrist there. So we'll talk about flexions shortly, but we can also see it does ulnar and radial. So big words, again, that you're maybe not thinking, or not ones.
Ulna's four characters.
Actually 5, so we're off to a great start there. So again, obviously numbers there that are words that you've not really probably heard in a putting lesson. I'm going to give this back to James who can practice his counting. And what we're going to see there is obviously flexion and extension is what this wrist is doing here. So if we start to get extension, we're going to see here that we've extended that wrist, we've got a little bit of cupping. If we get flexion, we're going to see that this is bowing a little bit. And this is what we see from people who try and get obviously very rigid. They go through, and what is that doing? It's adding flexion to your wrist, but also what that is doing to the club face is it's opening that club face. So if I get that little bit of forward shaft lean, my wrists don't move, we can start to see that that would be open to my target. And if you're somebody who pushes a lot of putts, you might be doing exactly that. And we're using hack motion today, guys, to obviously give us that feedback that you've seen on screen. It's a great training aid because feel and reel is one big thing in putting that I don't see people get. Obviously, they feel like, okay, well, yeah, my hands are nice and rigid, but they don't start to see that maybe getting other parts of their body not working correctly. The other side, if you're somebody who pulls a lot of putts, you might be that person who has no movement, no rotation, and it's all in the wrist. Start to see this, we get a lot of extension in that lead wrist, and from there, we can't control our pace, we can't control our start line, we really start to struggle with exactly what that is doing. So the biggest things that I see, like I mentioned there, is get onto a putting green and figure out, is this you? So get onto the putting green, make your backswing and start to see, right, are my arms not connected to my chest? That's somebody who maybe thinks, right, I'm doing straight back and straight through. So a nice drill for you to do is to tuck your sleeve and start to see, when you make your backswing, is your bicep still connected to your chest? If that's come off, we don't have control of that putter head. So we don't know what that is going to do. The next thing, if you're somebody who you feel like, well, my head's got a bit of wobble in it and I don't get control of that motion and my pace, then I want you to think about, right, I'm going to get on my left foot only, I'm going to drop my right foot back, and can I make a putting stroke keeping my balance? There I can keep my balance, I haven't fallen over, so I'm going to get a better control of what my wrists are doing because my body is working better. Again, on screen now, what we'll see, you'll see on screen I've still got that little bit of flexion, and that's one of my traits there, but also in the ulnar and radial, which is the up and down motion, the setting of the club, it is very consistent. And these numbers here are pretty good that we've got on screen. So we're inside tour ranges, we're going to have a little bit of movement, we're going to have a little bit of movement in our wrist when we're making a motion, but what I want you to do is start to feel that yes, there's minimal wrist movement, but it has to have that little bit of an arc. I have to be able to create an arc, I have to get my arms connected to my chest, a little play in the wrists, and that will help me start to get the ball starting on line and coming out of the center of that face. Let's talk about now on longer putts how this is going to help you, because if we don't have movement in our wrist, we start to hit the bottom of the putter, we start to leave a lot of putts short, and that's what's costing you shots and keeping your handicap where it is. Now let's talk about pace putting, because for me, if you can improve your pace putting this year with this club, then you're going to be able to lower your scores. If we can get rid of maybe, let's say, 2 or 3 putts around, we're instantly saving shots off your scores. If you hit your driver an extra 10 yards, buying the new latest driver, that could be 10 yards further into the trees, which for most of us, including myself and James, that is often the case. But
How rude.
here we can start to save you shots. But what we want to see, obviously, again using hack motion, is we have to have a little bit of play in that wrist. The best putters in the world, you will see the butt end of the putter will constantly work around that belly button. You'll see it's always pointing there. If I start to go straight back and straight through, you'll start to see that I start to drag this club off. That is not now pointing at my belly button. I'm now potentially going to catch the ground early, or I'm going to add a lot of loft to that. And how many times I see people add a lot of loft to putters, and then what they do is you do get a bit of backspin. So backspin can be added onto a golf ball, even on the putting green. We ideally want it when we're chipping and hitting into the green, but a lot of people, the only place they add backspin is with this club. So what we can do here, a good obviously drill for you to do for this, for your longer putts, is what Tiger Woods does. He has his right hand on only if you're a right-handed golfer. If you're left, it's your left. But what we're going to do is start to get this putter swinging, a little bit of swing in that club head. And you see that my hands are never traveling too far. The club head is traveling a long way there, but the hands are never going outside of a box. If I drew a box around my trousers, you can see my hand there is never getting past my phone in my pocket. It's not coming out here, which we see from a lot of people. So after we've done a couple of one-handed swings, we can do that, judging that feel. And we want to come in here. These are freshly rolled greens here at Woolley, and just get that ball rolling.
What a putt that is.
And you can see there, even on these greens, just as the season is starting, a fantastic roll there. So really there from pace with 30 feet away, your tour average would be within 3 feet, either short or long. So don't beat yourself up, but if we can start to think about that, if I can get it inside 3 feet, I'm as good as a tour player. But we need to get that routine and the better understanding of what you are doing with your wrists. Like that putter head swing, always pointing at my belly button. And then when we come in, we can really get that consistent. Have I got the line this time? Again, we take those 2 putts. So guys, I'm using hack motion today to get those kind of feels and start to get feedback, because when you put in, we want feedback. Right there, I've got the feedback from the strike. I've got a consistent distance. I'm going to get rid of any 3 putts. If you can do that this year, guys, that's going to help you lower your scores and get better at golf. If you want to do that, you can head over to our Get Good at Golf channel.